One of my favorite recipes, which I learned from my dad, is his salsa recipe. I love that recipe, and I was so grateful that I learned it before I left home. And this salsa recipe is amazing. Everyone that I've served it to loves it, and it goes really well with tacos, tostadas, eggs, burritos, chips, any Mexican meal. Greg loves it,
Oh
and
yes, the whole family, extended family, like nobody's not liked it. So.
and we're going to share it with you today.
So these are all the ingredients we'll use. We like to use reasonably large tomatoes, about one pepper per tomato. When we couldn't find the yellow wax peppers, we've substituted jalapenos. You can add more or fewer tomatoes for how much you want to make,
And spiciness.
and the spiciness we can adjust by how many seeds we leave in the peppers. So the next step is to burn the skins on the tomatoes and the peppers. You can use a gas grill, you can use a gas stove, or even an electric stove if you have something like this. So this is a grating my father-in-law made up for us to use an electric stove. So that just goes on there, and we put this on high, and you want it just glowing red hot. Okay. Oops, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, so then we put on tomatoes in batches. Okay, so we'll just check from time to time. That's probably a decent start. Sort of a balancing act sometimes.
Pretty.
And then we have the peppers. And try to keep them over the glowy parts so they don't have uncooked ends. These go faster than the tomatoes. Alright, so this is about as much as you want them burned. If it gets white or ashy, then that's definitely too much. So that's the upper end of how cooked you want it. That's probably even better right there. These little guys can go kind of quick. Those look pretty good. Okay, so that's sort of the lesser end of how much you want to do. Alright, that's looking pretty good. That's about as much as you want them cooked. That tastes best. At this point, the next step is cutting the cores out of the tomatoes and seeding the peppers. But right now they're still pretty hot, so we'll let them cool off. Some veggies to chop up. Alright, so at this point, now that the tomatoes have cooled off and the peppers, we can go ahead and process them. I'll do the peppers first because the tomatoes make a mess. For the, so you can use any kind of small knife. For the wax peppers, just cut the very end off and then cut lengthwise but not all the way through, and then you can kind of, I like to open it up like this. So the heat from this lives in these seeds and in these veins here. So I like to just kind of slice a little bit through the vein and then just scrape the whole side. And then I just drop the peppers in there. If the peppers have been overburned, then this inside will have almost nothing left, and even the fleshy part here will be dried up and almost gone. So that's a way to know that they've been overcooked. Then my father-in-law would just throw these little guys in whole, but that was, you know, he had an amazing tolerance for heat. So we'll process these the same way. Just open them up, take out the seeds and the veins. Okay, and then I cut the cores out of the tomatoes. If your salsa is smooth, you can just blend the whole batch. If you like it chunky, one option is to cut it up into the right size chunks here and mix that in. Another option is to just cut this coarsely and then blend on low. Pour this over the veggies. So that first batch of salt and blending was just to get it to dissolve a little bit better. So let's give it some more. I find that if I salt and taste and salt and taste and salt and taste, I get used to the flavor and wind up putting too much salt in. So really don't want to taste too many times. This should be somewhat salty because it goes on other food, but it shouldn't be overpoweringly salty. Once you've had it and salted it enough, you notice that the flavor really comes out. So the next time you make it, if you don't get that deep flavor, that strong flavor, then you know some more salt is called for.